Donald Trump is panicking as Vladimir Putin is conducting very threatening nuclear drills earlier today.
I'll tell you the truth. My daughter is now saying, damn him, damn Trump, and smashing her hand on the table. And I said, wow, honey, what are you thinking? And she said, he made us move in order for our own safety. And it's now he's destroying the country. You know, listen, she lives here. She hears what I'm saying to you. Not that I go around speaking like this every day if it's not an interview, but I think to myself, you don't want to give this to her.
I have a request to make, guys. Hit subscribe, like this video right now, subscribe to the channel, and join the membership, most importantly, because we need to keep independent journalism alive. We are just 29 members on this channel right now. We need at least 1,000. We are far from our goal. Please join the membership right now. It is just $9 a month. And this way you can support us and we can keep the great work alive. Subscribe to America Facticity, guys. Let's go back to the topic.
Rosie O'Donnell just did what most Americans only dream about doing. She looked at the political situation in this country. She read Project 2025 cover to cover. She listened to the speeches. She watched the rallies. She heard the threats. And she packed up her entire life, her career, her home, her belongings, her 12-year-old non-binary child, and her 40 years of American celebrity. And she got on a plane and she left. She did it 5 days before Donald Trump's inauguration. She did it in January of 2025. And from her new home in Ireland, 63 years old, she has spent the past 16 months doing what almost nobody else on the American political scene has been willing to do. She has refused to shut up. She has refused to let Donald Trump intimidate her into silence from across the Atlantic Ocean. She has refused to let his threats to revoke her United States citizenship turn her into a quiet exile. And on Cuomo Mornings on News Nation in February of 2026, she looked into the camera, she looked at Chris Cuomo, and she said the 4 words that have now become the defining diagnosis of this presidency from someone who actually escaped it. Folks, she said, in her exact words quoted in the reporting, that the energy in America today is, in her own words, scary. Scary. From a 63-year-old comedian, actor, talk show host, and mother who built her entire 40-year career on the proposition that American freedom of speech meant something. From a woman who hosted The View. From a woman who took home a Daytime Emmy 6 times for her own daytime talk show. From a woman who told her CNN audience on a Wolf Blitzer broadcast, in her exact words quoted by AOL and the New York Post, I have no regrets. Not a day has gone by that I thought it was the wrong decision.
Putin has announced joint nuclear force drills between Russia and Belarus. According to Putin, the two countries' armies are now practicing nuclear command operations during these exercises, and they're showing what it would look like to carry out launches of nuclear weapons using ballistic and cruise missiles combined. Vladimir Putin is saying that nuclear weapons remain a last resort, but due to growing global tension, Russia must retain its readiness of its nuclear forces. Of course, this directly follows Putin getting a hero's welcome in Beijing, where he met with Xi Jinping, who unveiled at a museum right there in Beijing an exhibit called Unbreakable Alliance with massive portraits of Putin and Xi Jinping. You see right here some additional information about this exercise and the video that the
because that is a two-way street, because Donald Trump has been mad at you for a very long time.
Over a decade.
Over a decade.
Yes.
And did it sort of start? It started from The View, yes?
The View.
Yeah. And it's been really, we've sort of made the joke on the show that he's flip-flopped on everything except you.
It's actually very true.
Yeah.
You know, there was a Tara O'Connor, I believe her name was, a young Irish lass who was Junior Miss Trump Atlantic City pageant sexist winner. And she was downtown, 19-year-old girl, drinking and kissing a girl. And it was on the cover of the Post. So he held a press conference right before The View went.
From a woman who looked Wolf Blitzer in the eye and told him, in her exact words, it's been heartbreaking and personally very, very sad to watch. The country she left, the country she built her career in, the country she was born into, the country she once represented on national television 5 days a week. According to Rolling Stone's October 2025 reporting, the Daily Telegraph interview Rosie gave from her new home in Dublin, the Washington Post profile, the Fox News reporting that the White House has been responding to her in real time, and the CNN broadcast with Wolf Blitzer and Pamela Brown that aired earlier this year, Rosie O'Donnell has assembled from Ireland the most consistent, the most public, and the most personally costly anti-Trump testimony of any American celebrity of this presidency. And before I walk you through every single piece of this story, including what Rosie said the moment Donald Trump publicly threatened to revoke her American citizenship in July of 2025, including how she has spent her time in Ireland applying for her own Irish citizenship through her grandparents, including what she said about her 12-year-old non-binary child Clay and Project 2025, including the breaking news from this morning that the Department of Justice has now formally indicted former Cuban President Raul Castro, and including the Trump administration's nearly $2 billion slush fund for January 6 defendants, I have a quick favor to ask. If you believe in this work, if you believe that the American people deserve to understand exactly what one of the most beloved entertainers of this generation is saying about her own country, please consider joining the America Facticity membership.
Russians put out about this exercise that involved over 64,000 Russian and Belarusian troops, more than 7,800 pieces of military equipment, including around 200 missile launchers. Russia currently has about 320 launchers in total. And I don't want you to forget the fact that a few months back, Donald Trump said that the U.S. will be engaged in nuclear testing, indicating that it could take place in Nevada or New Mexico. And there was a lots of uncertainty and ambiguity what Donald Trump meant by that. Also, when Donald Trump said that he was going to completely blow up all of Iran, that also made many of our allies believe that he was talking about nuclear weapons and perhaps dropping a nuclear bomb on Iran. There's reporting today from Reuters that a lot of our allies reached out to the State Department when Trump was making those statements about whether Trump was thinking of launching a nuke on Iran. And then the State Department and the Defense Department refused to answer to our allies what Donald Trump even meant by that. I'm going to show you what Donald Trump's doing in the Oval Office, because you can see he's becoming completely unglued at this point. But Putin also said the following during his speech earlier. This was a frivolous case. There's so many grounds. Statute of limitation, immunity grounds. There's no valid cause of action under the Iqbal and Twombly pleading standards at all. I could go into this and do a whole hour video on it. But Trump's lawsuit for $10 billion alleging he was emotionally distressed because his 2019 IRS had some contractor who leaked 450,000 people's tax returns. It ain't a lawsuit. It should be thrown out right away. In fact, you should get Rule 11 sanctions for it, not enter into a collusive settlement agreement, then not tell the federal judge about your settlement agreement, have the Justice Department say that they'll never audit you ever, and that any past tax liabilities you don't owe. This could be hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars in benefits to Donald Trump unjustly right there.
It is $9 a month, less than a single cup of coffee. The link is in the description below this video. Every dollar of that membership goes directly into keeping this channel alive and keeping this reporting in front of the people who need it most. Stand with us. Help us keep going. Now, back to Rosie. Let me walk you through the entire arc of Rosie O'Donnell's confrontation with Donald Trump. Because to understand why her exile in Ireland is so devastating to this presidency, you have to understand the depth of the feud between these two people. According to multiple decades of public record, Rosie O'Donnell and Donald Trump have been feuding publicly since December of 2006, when Rosie, then a co-host on The View, criticized Trump's handling of the Miss USA pageant. Trump responded in his trademark way. He called her, in his own words at the time, a fat slob on national television. The feud never stopped. For nearly 20 years, in every Republican primary debate Trump participated in during the 2016 cycle, the moment a female moderator brought up his history of misogynistic comments, Trump's reflexive line was, in his exact words, "Only Rosie O'Donnell." For 20 years, Rosie O'Donnell has been the single most cited name in Donald Trump's personal arsenal of female opponents. And throughout all of those 20 years, Rosie did not back down. According to the Washington Post's profile reported by Karen Heller, during Trump's first administration, Rosie channeled her anxiety into more than 200 angry digital portraits of Donald Trump on her iPad, labeling each one in her own captions, "moron, loser, liar." 200, on an iPad.
Today, the use of nuclear weapons is an extreme and exceptional measure to ensure the national security of our states. At the same time, given the growing tension in the world and the emergence of new threats and risks, our nuclear triad, as before, must serve as a reliable guarantor of the sovereignty of the Union state of Russia and Belarus, ensure strategic deterrence, and maintain nuclear parity and global balance of power. Then Belarus's leader, Lukashenko, says, we are absolutely not threatening anyone, but we have nuclear weapons and we are ready in every possible way to defend our homeland, is what he's saying. So clearly threats there. So what's Donald Trump's response to that? Well, actually yesterday, Donald Trump demanded that Ukraine help the United States by easing restrictions on Belarus's potash fertilizers. Hey, Zelensky, can you reach out to Europe and tell them not to sanction Belarus for their potash? Because Putin and Lukashenko really want to sell their fertilizer. And by the way, what's going on right now is that fertilizer prices for American farmers and wholesalers right now, it's up like 40% because a lot of the fertilizer material comes from the Middle East, and the Strait of Hormuz being closed is absolutely crushing our farmers. And so we have that going on right now. Now,
is that too much?
I will say that if Trump gets indicted, it would be really great if Mueller let you serve the papers.
Well,
I feel like
I have put in that request by tweet.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting to hear. But, nothing really will. I have to say, as a 55-year-old woman who lived through Vietnam, when I was in 1973, my mom died, and 2 months later, they started the Watergate hearings. And I remember as a child feeling, wow, there's no safety in my house. And look, there's no safety in the world. And all of that came right up when he, first of all, when he announced, I was like laughing my ass off.
And so that needs to obviously needs to be called out. And then we have Mike Lindell, Donald Trump's buddy, the pillow guy, saying that he's going to be asking for $400 million from the fund. Here, play this clip.
We actually put into the government a couple months ago through following a process that they told us about then. Now, this is new. And we are actually going to get it out there. I don't care which comes first to help my employees that lost millions upon millions of dollars. We had 3 third parties look and do an evaluation of MyPillow, what it was prior to all these attacks and what it is now. And all of them averaged $400 million that it cost the brand and cost MyPillow. And, it's just horrific that our own government could do this to the American dream, this company that was built on the American dream and made in the USA. And to have this happen, this will be it will be a blessing to actually get made some of these my employees made whole that were stockholders because in MyPillow, and even a lot of them that have lost their jobs, that were affected then, and all this.
While the first Trump administration was in office, that is what kind of feud this is. That is the depth of personal animosity that has built up over 20 years of public combat. And in January of 2025, after she read Project 2025, Rosie made the call. According to her CNN interview with Wolf Blitzer and Pamela Brown, she said, in her exact words from the broadcast, "I knew after reading Project 2025 that if Trump got in, it was time for me and my non-binary child to leave the country." 12-year-old Clay, a non-binary child, a child whose parent had read the document that the Trump campaign had refused to disavow during the entire 2024 election cycle. And Rosie did the math. She did not wait. She did not see how things played out. She did not give the new administration the benefit of the doubt. She got on a plane 5 days before the inauguration. According to her interview with The Late Late Show in Ireland, the move was sudden, intentional, and personal. She told her TikTok followers, in her exact words from the AOL coverage, that the move had been, in her own words, pretty wonderful. Then, in July of 2025, Donald Trump escalated. According to multiple national news outlets, including Fox News, Rolling Stone, and the New York Post, Trump posted to Truth Social in his exact words, "Because of the fact that Rosie O'Donnell is not in the best interests of our great country, I am giving serious consideration to taking away her citizenship." Folks, that is the President of the United States on his own social media platform publicly threatening to strip an American citizen of her citizenship for the crime of personal speech. That is not legal. That is not constitutional. That is not how the United States of America has operated at any point in its history.
Zelensky is also reporting some of these moves by Putin as Donald Trump continues to lift sanctions against Russian oil and continues to do his best to help Russia. We have additional visits by Steve Witkoff to Russia being announced. His 7th visit to hang out with Putin, to be a Putin bootlicker has been announced. He's been to Russia 7 times. He's been to Ukraine 0 times. Here's what Zelensky just posted. I held a staff meeting. We analyzed in detail available data from our intelligence agencies on Russia's planning of offensive operations in the Chernihiv, Kyiv direction. We are preparing responses in every possible course of enemy action. If the Russians do indeed dare to expand their aggression, our forces in this sector will be increased. Also, U.S. intelligence is now learning and leaking to CNN and others that Iran has basically rebuilt its military faster than expected. Not faster than I expected. I mean, I thought they were doing it. That's what I've been reporting here. They restarted their drone production just weeks after the ceasefire. Now, U.S. intelligence officials estimate that Iran could restore major drone capabilities within 6 months, despite the U.S. and Israeli strikes. Intelligence also suggests much of Iran's missiles and drone infrastructure survive.
American citizenship cannot be revoked by presidential decree. The 14th Amendment guarantees it. The Supreme Court has upheld it. And the President of the United States, posting from the White House, openly threatened to do it anyway. And Rosie O'Donnell, sitting in Ireland, did not flinch. According to her Instagram post that night, quoted in multiple outlets including Scottish Woman magazine and the Daily Telegraph, she responded in her exact words, "You are everything that is wrong with America, and I'm everything you hate about what's still right with it." Folks, that is the response of a woman who has been preparing for this fight for 20 years. That is the response of a 63-year-old American comedian who has watched Donald Trump diminish, intimidate, and silence one public figure after another, and who has decided that her own response will be the opposite. She did not back down. She did not apologize. She did not promise to stop talking. She doubled down. And then, in October of 2025, she announced something even more devastating to the Trump administration's campaign of personal threats. According to the Rolling Stone reporting and the Fox News coverage, Rosie O'Donnell announced from Ireland that she was applying for Irish citizenship through her grandparents, meaning that, in the legal sense, no American president could ever leave her stateless. She would have a second passport. She would have a second citizenship. She would have, in her own legal language, an irrevocable home. She told the Daily Telegraph, in her exact words quoted by Rolling Stone, "I am applying and about to be approved for my Irish citizenship as my grandparents were from there, and that's all you need. It will be good to have my Irish citizenship, especially since Trump keeps threatening to take away mine."
In the Midas Touch Network. Also earlier today, Iran and Oman continued to discuss the permanent Strait of Hormuz transit toll system. We showed you yesterday the Iranian Port Authority's maps of its sphere of control over the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran and Oman working on the types of fees that will be charged to ships if they want to get through the Strait of Hormuz, with exemptions to allies like Russia and China. Also, according to a release by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard, over the past 24 hours, a total of 31 vessels, including oil tankers, container ships, and other commercial vessels, crossed the Strait of Hormuz with coordination and security provided by the IRGC Navy. You take a look over here as well, and just look at some of this data over here. Turkey slashing its U.S. Treasury holdings from $16 billion to $1.8 billion in March. I mean, and they're supposed to be an ally of the United States. I mean, you're seeing a massive global rupture take place as the Trump regime shows utter weakness. So what do they do when they show weakness? Threaten another invasion, a Ponzi scheme of invasions. Marco Rubio this morning on a tarmac in Miami talked about invading Cuba. Here's what Rubio had to say. Play this clip.
Likelihood of the use of U.S. force to achieve a change in the Cuban political system as growing.
Our preference in Cuba and anywhere in the world is a negotiated diplomatic settlement, okay? And that's what I would say to you. The president always has the option to do whatever it takes to support and protect the national interest and national security of the United States. He has the option to do that if there's a threat to the national security of the United States. And he has shown his willingness to do that.
And stayed that way.
Stayed that way?
Yeah.
So, you know, as bad as everyone feels, and they have felt since November 8th, I know for me, I've been in a severe depression, although I'd like to say, today, after your show, I'm going to get a Bob Mueller tattoo.
Oh, that's exciting.
Because I love him.
Where are you going to put it? Have you thought about where you're going to put it?
Right over my heart. I'm so in love with Bob Mueller. I want to get posters. I want to meet him.
Yeah.
I just think he is it.
He does.
Then reporters ask him, what if Congress doesn't sign off on your ballroom at this point? And Trump's like, well, I guess it won't be secure then. Here's what he says in the Oval Office moments ago.
If they want to spend money on securing the White House, I think it would be very, very much a good expenditure, but the ballroom is being built.
Well, what if Congress doesn't sign off on the security money, sir?
Then the White House won't be a very secure place.
But then regarding Cuba, there was an aircraft carrier.
Also, a reporter asked Donald Trump if he's losing control of the United States Senate since they are, I remember I did a video on this morning, voting against him on the slush fund, voting against him on ballroom, voted against him on war powers. Here's what he has to say. Play this clip.
Mr. President, with many Americans concerned about affordability ahead of the midterms, there is some backlash among Senate Republicans to some of your other priorities, the ballroom and the anti-weaponization fund. You clearly still have a stronghold in the Republican Party. Your candidates did very well this week during the primaries, but are you losing control of the Senate?
My candidates did well. Not all candidates did well.
But are you losing control of the Senate, sir? Are you losing control of the Senate, Senate Republicans?
I don't know. I really don't know. I can tell you, I only do what's right. I don't need money for the ballroom. I'm making a gift of the ballroom.
Folks, the response of the Trump White House to that announcement, according to the Fox News reporting and the Rolling Stone coverage, was a single sentence from White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson. She told Fox News Digital, in her exact words, "What great news for America. What great news for America." Folks, that is the official response of the White House press office to the announcement that a 63-year-old American comedian, one of the most beloved entertainers of the past 40 years, was acquiring a second citizenship to protect her family from a president who had personally threatened her. That is the language of a White House that has fundamentally broken its relationship with the American culture industry, with the American entertainment community, and with the American public sphere. And folks, the personal cost of all of this on Rosie O'Donnell has been enormous, and the country deserves to hear it. According to the No Filter podcast Rosie appeared on in the early spring of 2026, quoted by Rolling Stone, Rosie made one of the most painful disclosures any American mother could make. She said in her exact words that she had skipped her own daughter's college graduation in the United States because the security people advising her, in her exact words from the podcast, didn't think it was wise. Then she explained why. She said, in her exact words quoted by Rolling Stone, "Because I think Trump will use me to rile his base." Folks, read that one more time. The President of the United States has now created a political environment in which a 63-year-old mother cannot attend her own American daughter's college graduation because the security professionals around her believe the president will use her presence to incite his political base against her.
Carrier, now positioned right outside of Cuba, is there to help the people and provide humanitarian aid. This was all about helping Cuba, really sending an aircraft carrier out there and blockading Cuba and starving the Cuban people to death is a way to help the people of Cuba. Again, that's very Putin-esque right there, right? As Donald Trump is seeing Putin doing these military drills, his instinct is to show, look, I'm an authoritarian too. Here, play this clip.
Then the White House won't be a very secure place.
But then regarding Cuba, there was an aircraft carrier that just arrived there this week, the aircraft carrier. Are you sending that there to intimidate the Cuban government?
No, not at all. The Cuba, look, it's a failed country. Everybody knows it. They don't have electricity. They don't have money. They don't have really anything. They don't have food. And we're going to help them along, and we're going to help them because the people, because number one, I want to help them. I don't want to on a humanitarian basis, but we have the Cuban American population, much of it living in Miami and Florida.
Then Donald Trump, again, in his kind of utter paranoia, seeing these military tests, says that, look, my golden ballroom, it's going to have a drone port. It's going to have thick bulletproof glass. This way it will be a shield if drones try to attack me. Here, play this clip.
The ballroom is being a tremendous amount of what's being done with respect to the ballroom is for national security, including, as an example, a drone port on top of which was top secret until litigation made it less than top secret. But we have a drone port. We have the glass that's 4 inches thick, bulletproof glass. We have bulletproof walls. We have things. You need a place like this. But this is being made as a gift from me and other people that are great patriots that spend a lot of money. We're building what will be the finest ballroom anywhere in the world. If they want to spend money on securing the White House, I think it would be very, very much a good expenditure. But the ballroom is being...
Clearly, you have Cassidy getting his revenge right there indeed. I mean, you also had Lindsey Graham calling Donald Trump out as well. You know, after certain news broke that Donald Trump was considering a letter of intent with Iran, although, you know, this is often fake news when Trump says letters of intent. We'll see what really happens there. Lindsey Graham lashed out at that idea. Lindsey Graham says, while I hope for a diplomatic solution, it must be comprehensive to ensure that Iran is no longer the largest state sponsor of terrorism. It also must be real, and the negotiations must be reliable. I appreciate everyone's efforts in the region to help this cause. I'm hearing that Pakistan's field marshal may travel to Iran. What could go wrong? Maybe he'll report the status of Iranian military aircraft being housed on Pakistani air bases. Like so many, I'm watching very closely what unfolds regarding, yet again, another effort to reach a deal with the Iranian regime. I wish all involved success that is real. That is real. Essentially mocking Donald Trump for fake deal after fake deal after fake deal. Now, we also learned that the IRS previously prepared a 25-page memorandum outlining what they saw as flaws in Donald Trump's frivolous suit against the IRS and the Treasury Department, and they advised the Justice Department to move to dismiss it.
That is the country we are living in. That is the daily reality of one of the most beloved entertainers of the past 40 years, in exile in Ireland, watching the country she was born in degrade into a place where she cannot safely attend her own child's milestone. And according to the Washington Post profile by Karen Heller, Rosie has continued to struggle, even from Ireland, with what her own therapist has been advising her about her continued public criticism of Donald Trump. Heller reported, in her exact framing, that Rosie had promised her therapist on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving that she would refrain from posting about Trump for 2 days. 2 days. The minimum possible reprieve. And she could not do it. She could not stop. Because the pattern of 2 decades of personal feud and 16 months of exile and a daughter she could not attend graduation for and a non-binary child she had to protect from American politics and an Irish citizenship she had to acquire to feel safe. All of that compounded into a sense of moral obligation that no therapist could talk her out of. That is the depth of what Rosie O'Donnell is paying personally. And the cable networks have largely refused to lead with the human dimension of her exile. And folks, what makes Rosie O'Donnell's case so important is that she represents what happens to ordinary Americans who do exactly what she did, but without the resources to leave. According to the Washington Post profile by Karen Heller, Rosie has spent the past 16 months in Ireland connecting with a community of other American exiles, teachers, doctors, lawyers, academics, parents of LGBTQ children, who all made the same calculation she made after reading Project 2025.
And finally, he's asked if he's attending his son's wedding. Here, let's play this clip.
Are you attending your son's wedding this weekend, by the way?
He'd like me to go, but it's going to be just a small little private affair, and I'm going to try and make it. I'm in the midst. I said, you know, this is not good timing for me. I have a thing called Iran and other things. That's one I can't win on. If I do attend, I get killed. If I don't attend, I get killed. By the fake news, of course, I'm talking about. No, but he's got a very person who I've known for a long time, and hopefully they're going to have a great marriage.
Mr. President, to add to the argument, I just actually passed by it.
And here's what voters currently think, or individuals who didn't vote in 2024. Just you put this all together, and people who are seeing this who didn't vote in 2024, here's what they think about Donald Trump. Here's what Harry Enten said moments ago. Let's play it.
Ones that are changing, that are moving, that are different than the last election?
You know, you mentioned the Republican base in your intro, and then obviously there's the Democratic opposition. But what about those who didn't cast a ballot at all in 2024? Those who didn't show up to vote? Well, they have become absolutely perturbed. I dare say they are pissed off at the President of the United States. Voters who didn't cast a ballot in 2024. Trump's net approval rating. Back in November of 2024, just after the election, look at his net approval rating. It was plus 4 points for his plans in office. But look at that. It is fallen. Yeah. Whoo. There you go, Sarah Seidner. That's the only sound you can make. It has fallen through the floor. Look at this. Minus 50 points on Trump's net approval rating among voters who did not, in fact, cast a ballot in 2024. That is, you don't have to be a mathematical genius, an over 50-point move against the President of the United States among those who are kind of like, meh, you know, in terms of voting in 2024. But now they are pissed.
I'm not, I don't want to judge Bob Mueller. He looks like a very severe man. Like
You think?
Yeah,
he looks to me like Superman. Like Captain America, like justice has finally arrived back on our shores, and we are going to right ourselves again.
Also, Enrique Tarrio, the leader of the Proud Boys, says he's going to be asking for $2.5 million. And one of the things that I think from the fund, the Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, they taking our taxpayer dollars. Even Republicans right now are saying no, no, no. And also, I think they're seeing the writing on the wall, what's happening in Texas right now, where a Democrat, James Tallarico, is leading Ken Paxton, who Trump just endorsed. And I think Republicans in the Senate and the House say, wait a minute, Trump is he intentionally trying to destroy us right here? Here, play this clip.
It's simply put, they're looking at the numbers. They are looking at the numbers, and the idea that Democrats can't win in Texas, I want to put that to rest. They could very well do it. James Tallarico could very well win in Texas. And I want to use a comparison point with 2018 because there was all this talk about Beto O'Rourke, right? Oh, could he beat Ted Cruz? He could beat Ted Cruz. The numbers at this point in that campaign, simply put, did not support that conclusion. But the numbers at this point absolutely support the conclusion that James Tallarico can win. So take a look. Texas Senate polls in May of the election year. When you matched up Beto O'Rourke versus Ted Cruz was up by 7 points. He was clearly ahead. But look at the polling average now when you max up Ken Paxton versus James Tallarico. It's actually Tallarico that's ahead by 4 points. And Johnny B, I was looking back at every single Texas Senate race that I could find. And at this point in the campaign, James Tallarico is polling better than any Democrat in at least 24 years. You have to go all the way back to 2002 to find a Democrat even polling anywhere close to where Tallarico is polling right now. Texas, Democrats have dreamt about turning it blue. This time, the numbers actually support the idea that they may actually be able to do it.
I have to say, this is a difference that I have not seen before and I was not aware of. And a lot of people are making the comparison to 2018. One of the reasons is that Ken Paxton, if he's a nominee, not a super popular nominee, and people are like, oh, well, Ted Cruz as an incumbent senator, he wasn't that popular either. So what's the difference between Cruz and Ken Paxton?
Yeah, the idea that Ted Cruz was not that popular, that's a falsehood. That is simply put a falsehood. You go back. Again, just look at these differences right here. Okay, Texas GOP candidate net favorability. Ted Cruz's net favorability was actually plus 7 points in my average polls. Look where Ken Paxton is. The complete inverse of that. He's 7 points underwater. So look, again, you just look at the numbers. In 2018, Democrats had this dream of turning Texas blue. The numbers didn't support it in large part because Ted Cruz was actually decently popular. But Ken Paxton is anything but. In poll after poll after poll, he is underwater. No wonder Republican senators are running scared, especially after that Trump endorsement of Paxton yesterday.
They left. They took their families. They went to Canada, to Mexico, to Portugal, to Ireland, to the United Kingdom. They became, in the technical legal sense, political refugees from the United States of America. And the cable networks have largely refused to lead with the human dimension of this exodus. According to immigration data cited in multiple international reporting outlets, American applications for foreign permanent residency status, particularly in Canada, Ireland, and Portugal, surged after the 2024 election by margins not seen in modern American history. Folks, the people who left are not all famous. Most of them did not have the platform Rosie O'Donnell had. Most of them could not get an interview with Wolf Blitzer, could not appear on Chris Cuomo mornings, could not give an exclusive to the Daily Telegraph. But they made the same calculation. They read the same Project 2025 document. They had the same fears. And they did what Rosie did. They left. And Rosie O'Donnell, from her home in Dublin, is using her platform to speak for all of them. And folks, before I continue, I want to take one quick moment for two small things. First, please hit the like button on this video right now. It costs you nothing, and it helps push this reporting in front of more Americans who deserve to see it. Second, if you have not already subscribed to America Facticity, please do that now. Subscribe, share, stand with us, and drop a comment below telling me, what hit you hardest about Rosie's story? Was it the citizenship threat? Was it skipping her daughter's graduation? Was it her response to Trump on Instagram? Was it her non-binary child Clay? I read every single comment. Your voice matters in this conversation.
Republicans are turning against Donald Trump in Congress and blocking major legislation that Donald Trump thought was absolutely going to pass. Republicans turning against Donald Trump is happening fast, and it's happening furious. We previously reported how Republicans in the Senate joined forces with Democrats and in a 50-47 vote discharged a war powers resolution to block Donald Trump from engaging in further military operations in Iran. So it passed in the Senate. But the question is it going to pass in the House? This will go before the House of Representatives today. Jim Himes, the ranking Democratic member on the key military committee, says that they believe they have the Republican votes and they have a lingering Democrat from Maine, Congressmember Golden, who was previously voting against the Democratic position to block Donald Trump from having war powers. And Democrats believe indeed in the House of Representatives, they will be able to discharge a similar war powers resolution as the Senate, both chambers about to issue a stunning rebuke of Donald Trump's unlawful and catastrophic war in Iran. Now, Donald Trump still has the ability to veto it, and he probably will veto it, but it will be sent to his desk, and it will become very clear that the American people, as represented in both the Senate and the House,
here,
he was on that little escalator down with the fake crowd going, like, here's my wife who loves me. And she's like, how do I get out of here? You know, right? And I just thought it would never happen.
Same here.
So
I've been wrong at every turn.
I said to my therapist, you know, I got this new show, Smilf, but I have to go to Boston to start shooting the day after the election. Do you think it's going to be okay for me to be there? Or what if he wins? She's like, Rosie, you really have to start working on your negative loop in your brain. He is not going to win. Every smart person knows he is not going to win. That night, I was like, listen, you wench. Man of the year, Donald Trump. Well, you, Time Magazine. You, seriously.
Now, back to the story. Because the news of the last 24 hours has only confirmed everything Rosie O'Donnell has been saying from Ireland. Let me walk you through what has broken just in the past day, because every American watching this video deserves to know. According to NBC News' live blog reporting last night, updated at 10:55 p.m. Eastern Time on May 20th, 2026, the United States Department of Justice formally announced the indictment of former Cuban President Raul Castro yesterday in Miami. The charges relate to the 1996 shooting down of 2 civilian planes operated by the Miami-based exile group Brothers to the Rescue, which killed 4 Cuban Americans. Folks, this is the moment I've been warning the audience about for weeks on this channel. The Castro indictment is the next step in the manufactured public pretext for what would be the first American military action against Cuba since 1962. It builds on the Axios intelligence dump from earlier this past weekend claiming Cuba had acquired 300 drones. It builds on the surprise visit by CIA Director John Ratcliffe to Havana on May 14th. It builds on the public language being deployed by senior administration officials. The indictment is the legal scaffolding. The intelligence leaks are the public relations scaffolding. The escalating rhetoric is the political scaffolding. And the Trump administration is, in plain sight, building toward an outcome that the American people have not been asked to authorize. Then, according to the same NBC News live blog, the Justice Department, under Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche on May 19, 2026,
want this war done. This war should never have happened from the outset. It is crushing the American people, and Americans are sick and tired of it. We're going to follow the vote in the House. It's never done. It's never a done deal until it's a done deal, but we're going to be following that. There's other critical pieces of legislation where we see Republicans joining forces with Democrats to block Donald Trump's fascist and disgusting agenda. When it comes to Donald Trump wanting to create a $1.8 billion slush fund to pay January 6th insurrectionists, arising out of a purported $10 billion lawsuit that Donald Trump brought in his personal capacity against the Treasury Department and the IRS for a purported leak of his tax returns in 2019 when he was in office as part of a broader tax return leak involving 450,000 other individuals whose tax returns apparently leaked who didn't sue because there is no valid claim to be brought. It would also be brought against Trump's 2019 IRS. Trump filed this in January 2026, and he also built in a provision that he can't be audited and that he's exempt from any liability from past tax fraud or any past misconduct in not paying taxes. Well, in that situation, Republicans are also joining forces with Democrats, they say, and they're going to try to come up with a mechanism to kill Donald Trump's ability to have this slush fund for $1.8.
A $1.776 billion fund. The number is not a coincidence. It is the year of American independence, a number Donald Trump has used to wrap his personal grievances in patriotic symbolism to compensate Donald Trump's political allies who claim they were unfairly targeted by the previous administration. According to CNN's reporting on the same fund, the program is, in CNN's exact words, an unprecedented move that would allow the president's administration to pay his supporters from a government agency he controls with taxpayer money. Folks, the people who attacked the Capitol on January 6, 2021 can now apply to receive federal taxpayer money under this program. And Acting Attorney General Blanche signed an addendum on the same day declaring that the federal government is, in the agreement's exact capitalized words, forever barred and precluded from pursuing any claims, including tax claims against Donald Trump, his family, or his businesses. Permanent tax immunity for the president's family. On the same day, yesterday, and on top of all of that, according to the same NBC News live blog and the Al Jazeera coverage, Trump-backed candidates won primary races against multiple Republican members of Congress who had defied the president's wishes. Republican Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky, the loudest Republican critic of the Trump administration's spending and foreign policy decisions from inside the GOP, was defeated this past Tuesday in his primary by a Trump-backed Navy veteran named Ed Galrine, who took 54.4% of the vote to Massie's 45.6%. According to the Al Jazeera reporting, the Massie defeat exposed, in their exact words, a growing Republican backlash against pro-Israel political influence, even as Trump claimed it as a personal political victory. Massie joined Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, who lost his primary on Saturday night, as the second sitting Republican member of Congress to be purged by Trump in the past week. And according to the PBS NewsHour reporting from yesterday, Trump openly told reporters yesterday morning that
Republican Congressmember Fitzpatrick literally used those words. I am going to work to try to kill this, to make sure that this slush fund doesn't exist. And he told the Midas Touch Network. The Midas Touch Network has a whole DC bureau, as you know, on Capitol Hill. And here's what Congressmember Fitzpatrick, Republican from Pennsylvania, told our Pablo Manriquez earlier in the day. Let's play this clip.
Congressman, what do you make of this $1.7 billion fund for
bad news? We're going to try to kill it.
You're going to try and kill it?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. And how?
Well, we're considering legislative options. We're going to write a letter to the AG to start, but we're considering a legislative option.
Okay.
So we're trying to unpack exactly, what the legal machinations are, but can't do that.
Right. And have you ever heard of any other Americans, other than Trump as an associate?
I haven't.
Who are unauditable by the IRS?
I've never heard that before.
Okay. So would that be part of the legislative?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course, yeah. You can't do that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And we have reporters everywhere on Capitol Hill. So then Fitzpatrick spoke with our head of our DC bureau, Scott McFarlane, and here's what Fitzpatrick told McFarlane. Here, play this clip.
The slush fund for crooks and rioters is at risk of melting right here, right now at the Capitol. A key Republican here in the U.S. House, Brian Fitzpatrick of suburban Philadelphia, a frontline Republican, says he is keen on killing this thing. His constituents do not like it.
Let me share with you over here what the Congress member what Senator Cassidy had to say about the ballroom. Now remember too, Senator Cassidy's been a key vote against Donald Trump on all of these things that I've just mentioned. And what just happened? Donald Trump threw Cassidy under the bus, told people to vote for Cassidy's primary opponent. Senator Cassidy from Louisiana lost his primary, and now Senator Cassidy's out there working across the aisle finally with Democrats. Watch what Senator Cassidy had to say about Trump's golden ballroom. Here, play this clip.
There's no architectural plans. There is no environmentals. There's no engineering. There's no sense of, when we ask, how did it happen to cost exactly $1 billion? In my mind, it could cost a lot less. It could cost a lot more. I just don't get it.
Now, Senator Cassidy also posted the following message as well. People are concerned about paying their mortgage or rent, affording groceries, and paying for gas, not about putting together a $1.8 billion fund for the president and his allies to pay whomever they wish, with no legal precedent or accountability. This is adding to our national debt. If there needs to be a settlement, the administration should bring it to Congress to decide.
So, in his exact words, it doesn't work out well when GOP members vote against him. Folks, that is the President of the United States telling the American press that bad things happen to Republican members of Congress who vote their conscience. That is exactly the kind of energy Rosie O'Donnell told Chris Cuomo back in February was scary. And it has only gotten more so. And folks, the personal threats from the Trump administration to Iran continued just yesterday morning, May 20th, 2026, when President Trump traveled to New London, Connecticut, and used the commencement address at the 2026 United States Coast Guard Academy graduation to threaten renewed military strikes on Iran. According to Fox News Digital's coverage of the speech and the Washington Post reporting by Cleve R. Wootson Jr., Trump told the cadets, in his exact words, "We hit them very hard, but we may have to hit them even harder, but maybe not. But we're not going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon and blow up the entire Middle East, Israel, the entire Middle East, and then come here for you. Not going to happen." Folks, the President of the United States used a service academy commencement ceremony, the kind of ceremony that traditionally honors the apolitical service of newly commissioned military officers, to deliver what amounted to a campaign rally about an ongoing foreign war. According to ABC News' live updates, Trump told reporters earlier in the same day that he was, in his exact words, in no hurry to make a peace deal with Iran. He cited in PBS NewsHour's framing political concerns and the November midterm elections. Folks, the President of the United States openly told the American press, on the record, that he is delaying peace negotiations with Iran for political reasons connected to the November midterm elections. The war continues because the President believes the war helps him politically. That is the diagnosis. That is what Trump said out loud. And that is exactly the kind of conduct Rosie O'Donnell told the world made America scary. And folks, all of this is happening while the comedy and broadcast ecosystem in this country has been simultaneously taking on the same fight.
We also spoke with Republican Congress member Schweikert. Again, very right-wing guy. He's not happy about this slush fund either, this $1.8 billion slush fund. Here's what he had to say. Play this clip.
Any thoughts on the $1.776 billion fund?
Oh, I'm very concerned about it.
Deep concerns?
Oh, yeah, it's partially, I don't know structurally how you do that, when there's already statutes to redress those sorts of reasons.
Thank you, sir.
And then you had Republican Congress member Kiley saying basically the same, that he doesn't understand what the heck this fund is about and nobody should be getting any money who participates in an insurrection. This is a Republican. Here, play this clip.
Of course I have concerns. It's very strange, very unprecedented. It's very concerning.
Do you think that January 6 rioters who have been pardoned should be able to receive money from this fund?
I don't know why anyone is receiving money from this fund. That's not the way we typically adjudicate claims if anyone has claims. And certainly I would think that, those wouldn't be people that would be at the top of the list, even if there were a basis for such a payout. So I'm still learning about it. It's a very unusual arrangement. I think that there does need to be congressional oversight into exactly how this came about and what exactly is going to be the criteria for any distributions.
So then you had Donald Trump's Attorney General Todd Blanche give this bizarre interview with CNN last night. Did you see it? Where Todd Blanche says, "Yeah, I have no issues giving money to people who attacked and try to kill police officers. That happens all the time. We always give money to people who try to attack and kill police officers." Like, quite literally, what the hell are you talking about? What do you mean we give money? No, we don't. This is a deranged, idiotic regime. Here, play this clip.
You're the nation's top law enforcement official right now. Would you be okay with people who were convicted of hurting police getting taxpayer money?
Just to be clear, people that hurt police get money all the time. Okay, there's a process where if you believe you have your rights violated, you can apply for funds, you can sue, you can file a claim, you can go to court. In some of those cases, the state, the government, the federal government settles those cases. It's abhorrent to ever touch a law enforcement officer, which is why anytime anybody does that, and it's a federal officer, we'll prosecute them. But that's a completely different question with whether an individual is allowed to apply for a claim. Whether they'll get a claim, depends. I can't, it would not be appropriate for me to talk about absolutes, like absolutely not, under no circumstances. I mean, we can talk about hypotheticals till we're blue in the face, but that really wouldn't be fruitful.
According to Deadline's reporting from this past week, Jimmy Kimmel walked back onto his Jimmy Kimmel Live stage at the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood on Thursday, May 14th, 2026, pulled up Donald Trump's latest Truth Social post demanding his firing, and delivered the line of the night. He said in his exact words from Deadline, "Let's see if we can come up with a ceasefire agreement. This could be good for both of us. I get to keep my job, you get to end your 11th war. End your 11th war." According to the Daily Beast's reporting from the same week, Stephen Colbert opened his Tuesday, May 12th monologue by displaying Donald Trump's overnight Truth Social activity, 54 posts in 74 minutes. Colbert turned to the audience and asked in his exact words, "My God, when does this man sleep?" Then he showed the photograph the entire country has now seen. Donald Trump, sound asleep in the Oval Office during an official meeting. And folks, last night, Thursday, May 21st, Stephen Colbert broadcast the final episode of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. After more than a decade on the air, after winning the Primetime Emmy, after building the most watched late-night program in the country during the Trump era, Colbert is now permanently off CBS, under what The Hollywood Reporter has suggested was a corporate retaliation campaign for his on-air criticism of the $16 million Paramount Trump defamation settlement. And the late-night ecosystem keeps shrinking. The networks are bending. The voices are disappearing. Joy Reid was canceled at MSNBC. Multiple network bookings have been quietly killed. Michael Wolff has been blacklisted by his own published account. And in the middle of all of that, Rosie O'Donnell from her home in Ireland has continued to speak. She has continued to post. She has continued to broadcast. She has continued to use her social media platforms to tell the American audience exactly what she sees. And the Trump White House has continued to attack her personally, by name, from the official podium of the press office. According to the Fox News reporting, White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson told the network in her exact words that Rosie O'Donnell, in Jackson's framing, clearly suffers from a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome.
More on that slush fund in a moment. Now, the other area that Republicans joined forces with Democrats to kill, Donald Trump's ballroom, $1 billion. Trump, MAGA Mike, tried to engineer this in a reconciliation bill to pay for this golden ballroom where Donald Trump just ripped down the East Wing of the White House. And now he's saying that this golden ballroom is actually a, quote, drone empire, whatever that means. It's a shield against drones and ballistic missiles. And there's going to be an emergency room hospital right there at Donald Trump's beck and call. You know, you've seen all the deranged things that he says. It's a gigantic drone empire. Well, the provision has officially been stripped from the reconciliation package. Now, you may be saying, Ben, didn't you report on this over the weekend? Don't give me old news. Not. There's an update. So over the weekend, we learned that the parliamentarian who decides whether certain items, funding items, violate what's called the bird rule. It's called taking a bird bath, and you see whether you can pass things through reconciliation. The parliamentarian makes these decisions about the impact of certain things on the deficit and how it impacts things for purposes of a reconciliation bill. Anyway, the parliamentarian said that this $1 billion ballroom funding violates the bird rule in the bird bath, and it needs to be removed. Democrats challenged the ability for it to be put into a reconciliation package.
And he said, just want you to know, I've forgiven her. And this young woman, I'm like, what is he, the pimp? And she's the prostitute? And who is he? He's the moral arbiter of 20-year-old behavior now, right? So then I said, some facts that I just went on Wiki that were easily accessible since this campaign began. That he is bankrupt 4 times, that he got all his money from his father, and that he notoriously cheats private contractors out of their money.
Yes, and that is all pretty well documented. Yeah.
Simple facts.
And so you said this on The View.
And he went bat crazy.
Yeah.
And it's better for the entire country that she decided to move away. Folks, that is the White House press office, sneering at a 63-year-old American mother in exile, celebrating her departure, mocking her decision to protect her non-binary child from Project 2025. That is what we are living through. So let me bring this home, folks. Let me tell you what all of this means. Taken together, taken in full, taken as the single coherent picture that the political establishment in this country has refused to assemble for the American people. Rosie O'Donnell, 63 years old, daughter of an Irish-American family from Long Island, 6-time daytime Emmy winner, former host of The View, former co-host of The Rosie O'Donnell Show, an entertainer whose career has spanned every major shift in American culture from the 1980s to the present, has spent the past 16 months in self-imposed exile in Ireland, applying for Irish citizenship, protecting her 12-year-old non-binary child Clay, skipping her own daughter's college graduation on the advice of security professionals, and continuing to tell the American audience, from her new home, on every podcast she can find, on Cuomo Mornings, on CNN with Wolf Blitzer and Pamela Brown, on Instagram every single night, that the country she left is, in her own words, scary. That a woman of her standing, her resources, her contacts, and her credibility now feels safer in Ireland than in the United States. That her family had to leave America to protect her child from Project 2025, that the President of the United States has publicly threatened to revoke her citizenship for the crime of personal political speech, that the White House press office has officially celebrated her decision to leave the country. And while she has been saying all of this from her new home in Dublin, the news of the past 24 hours has only confirmed her diagnosis at every turn. The Justice Department has indicted Raul Castro on a 30-year-old case as part of what appears to be the public-facing buildup to military action against Cuba. The Justice Department has created a $1.776 billion slush fund to pay taxpayer dollars to Donald Trump's political allies, including potentially to January 6th defendants. The Justice Department has granted the president's family permanent immunity from federal tax prosecution.
Then the question is, could Republicans try to revive it, make it less money, chop it up, and put it in other pieces of legislation? And Republicans decided at their lunch yesterday, we're not supporting this thing. We're done with this thing. We're out. And we're not going to help Donald Trump fund the ballroom. He said it was going to be dealt with private funds. So we are not jumping in this at all. Now, this is also, I think, one of the reasons that Republicans are doing this. It's also part of retaliation for Donald Trump not endorsing Texas Senator Cornyn, who's the current incumbent in Texas. Donald Trump instead endorsed Cornyn's opponent, the very, very, very corrupt Texas attorney general, who lots of people think is going to lose in this upcoming election to the Democrat, as the Democrat is significantly ahead right here. You'll see Ken Paxton's the name of the Texas AG who was impeached. He's running against James Tallarico. I'll get to this.
I am here and I have no Xanax! Mommy's better since Bob Mueller last Friday. I love you, Bob. Keep doing what you do, Bob. We love you.
I'm very happy to have you back here. Always a pleasure to talk to you. And I really hope that, based on what you said tonight, you managed to get one more tweet out of the president. So
I hope I do, Seth.
Yeah.
And I want to say honestly, very quickly, because I know it's annoying when people compliment the host.
CNN said, but don't you think the average taxpayer would be upset that like your taxpayer dollars are going to like insurrectionists and like terrorists, like you're like and horrible people and people involved in J6? To which Todd Blanche says, no, I think Americans would love this. Here, play this clip.
Now, he really doubled down, insisting not only is this legal, but this is something he says that taxpayers would support because they would want people who had been unfairly treated to be compensated. But Aaron, you and I have been in this business a long time. Nobody who's ever been investigated by the Justice Department or by authorities has been happy or thought it was fair. So it's still a little unclear how they're going to prevent a feeding frenzy of taxpayer funds here, but they have about 30 days to select the members for this committee and lay out more ground rules for how they're going to vet this influx of claims.
Whose idea was the audit addendum? Let's play this clip.
Played no role in my decision except to do the right thing.
Whose idea was this audit addendum?
What do you mean, whose idea was it?
Who came up with this? Did they ask for it? Did you
the president has outside counsel, and their counsel of the Department of Justice, not me. And there was negotiations, and this was what was part of those negotiations included a discussion around the any pending audits.
And by the way, even Republicans are not buying this. So on all of these fronts right here, war powers, I believe you're going to have the House and the Senate both coming together today. Blocking that will keep you posted. $1.8 billion slush fund. Republicans joining with Democrats blocking that. $1 billion to the ballroom. That's been stripped out of the reconciliation bill for good. Bye-bye to...
2 sitting Republican members of Congress have been purged from their party for the crime of voting their conscience. The president has openly admitted on the record that he is delaying peace negotiations with Iran for political reasons connected to the upcoming midterm elections. He has threatened renewed strikes on Iran at a service academy commencement ceremony. And in the middle of all of that, the daytime women of The View are calling for resistance. The late-night comedians are calling for ceasefires. The independent journalists, including us here at America Facticity, are doing the work the cable networks refuse to do. And Rosie O'Donnell is broadcasting from Ireland. So please, before you click off this video, share it. Send it to your family, send it to your friends, send it to the people you know who still get their news from cable networks that refuse to assemble this picture. Send it to anybody who needs to know what Rosie O'Donnell told CNN about her exile. Send it to anybody who needs to understand that the Justice Department just granted the president's family permanent tax immunity. Send it to anybody who needs to know that Raul Castro has just been indicted in what appears to be the next step toward an American military action against Cuba. Subscribe to this channel if you have not yet. Hit the like button, drop a comment below, and join the America Facticity membership at $9 a month. The link is in the description. Every dollar keeps this channel running. Every member is one more reason for us to keep doing this work, because the truth is the truth. And the truth is this. Rosie O'Donnell tried to warn this country in November of 2024. She tried to warn this country in January of 2025 when she got on a plane. She has been warning this country every single week, every single month, every single broadcast and podcast and Instagram post and CNN interview for the entire duration of the second Trump administration. And the country slowly and painfully is now beginning to catch up to her. Stand with us, speak with us, subscribe, share, join, and we will keep doing this work every single day until the American people understand exactly what has happened to their country and exactly what it will take to repair it. We will see you in the next one.